Hello, my name is Malcolm McCauley. I'm a physical therapist in Duluth, Minnesota, and developer of the LightSpeed lift system. I've been using body weight support since the early 1990s because I found it to be a tremendous way to take away some of the fear that infects all of us after an injury. Early body weight support systems were pretty heavy duty, pretty cumbersome, developed mainly for people that had had spinal cord injuries, people that had had severe strokes, and then actually astronauts returning from space who were trying to rebuild their bones without breaking any bones. The effect was more directed towards mechanically holding people up. If we held them up and they had less force, they were able to stand. And the beauty of that is that after an injury, and when we're not moving, walking, standing normally, our muscles get weak, and even the force of gravity alone is enough to crush us. All of us as therapists have had a problem. How do we build them up? When we're doing a weight training program, we start with lighter weights and gradually build up. But when we go to gravity, it's full on, and body weight support is designed to take away a little bit of gravity and also to provide a little bit of balance for people. Early 90s, I had a patient who had suffered a disc injury to his neck. He was an addicted runner and was going crazy because he couldn't run. Restored normal range of motion, activity, but the pounding of running sent shooting pain down his left arm. I didn't have the money to afford one of the expensive support systems, so I made one with a boat winch up over a treadmill to a fish scale, so we had some dampening of his motion. Hooked it to a traction belt, and if you don't know, a traction belt grabs around the abdominal region and lifts up through the upper abdominals and through the rib cage. A lot of compression, not the most comfortable thing in the world, but with Dan, we were able to then get him standing up. As he started to walk and then to run, the dampening provided by the fish scale was enough to take off that compression at the cervical spine, and he didn't have left arm pain. Dan got this huge smile on his face, and that was the start of the story. He wanted to take it into helping runners run faster and farther, which I did too, because I'm still a runner. But I also saw that when I used the system with people that had traumatic brain injuries, somebody that maybe was coming off a reconstruction for an anterior cruciate ligament repair or total hip or knee surgery, that something else was happening. It wasn't just the mechanical release. There was also a change in how their fear pattern. I think we can relate to when we're fearful that we're going to fall. Maybe the ground is slippery. Maybe we have fallen. Or maybe we're thinking like we're walking on a really narrow board that's up 20 feet in the air. We could all walk on that board if it was down low, but when that board is up 20 feet in the air and we become fearful of falling, all of a sudden our muscles tense up, we breathe differently, and we're actually more apt to fall. Now, if we put a little bit of support on something, if someone's got a cable on them, if you know that you're not going to fall very far, people relax. We see that all the time on ropes courses. Maybe on slack lines even. But clients were coming into me with this chronic clawing of the floor, and I noticed as soon as I put a good body weight, gave them a little bit of lift, they relaxed, their movement pattern was better, they progressed through rehabilitation much more quickly. What I didn't like though was the fact that the lift systems, grabbed hard, had to grab really hard around the diaphragm and rib cage. And many of them also included a little strap that went down through the groin region. So for me, the key to an effective body weight support system that was comfortable, easy to use, was going to be something that could provide that lift right through the hip joint. If we could get that lift happening at the hip joint, the axis of rotation of the legs, you were going to get the most normal motion with the least amount of effect anyplace else in the body. The body wasn't going to be fighting it. And I spent the next 15 years going to trade shows, looking in trade magazines, trying out a few ideas myself of how to get that lift to work through the hip joint. Finally, in about 2009, had a paradigm shift, came up with an idea of attaching elastic cords in front, down through the hips, up behind a person, to a frame that fit around a treadmill. Didn't actually attach to a treadmill, but fit around a treadmill, so that it was inexpensive, could fit within any kind of rehabilitation clinic. And we worked hard, really hard, to make that system stay right in place there. Had to come up with something called magic shorts, is what they're termed now, because they make you lighter. They make it so that you can walk farther and with less effort and less trauma on the lower extremities. During this time, I was seeing plenty of opportunities with people coming into the clinic. Again, I love to see it with traumatic brain injuries, because as soon as people knew that they weren't going to fall again, and yet they weren't being compressed, they could feel comfortable. When they could move comfortably, there was just a general shaking out of tone in their body. They relaxed, they looked natural, they looked coordinated. And the carryover effect then to their walking on ground, even without the body weight support, was tremendous. Everything else that I had tried doing, strengthening techniques, mobilization techniques, coaching, cueing, cajoling people, when I stood them up with support of a body weight support system, they progressed faster. Seeing is believing. And once you've seen it, once you've done it a couple of times, seeing the smiles on people's faces as they get up, can move again, can relax again, can unlearn the fear of falling, I just kept on going with it. So what we've got now with the LightSpeed lift system is a framework that'll go around any treadmill. Bars that are removable front and back, so that when you take them off, your treadmill is still your treadmill. But when we put them on, it's a solid system that you can attach the lift cords to front and back, and that person is stable and secure within that. And yet they have upper body motion, they have hip motion, they can breathe easily. Motion is the most natural of any body weight support system out there. It's quick to put on, which is important both in a clinical situation and in a health club or a home gym. You want that to be able to get on and off quickly and easily. And it's cost effective. It's affordable by a tenth or even a 20th compared to other systems that are out there. And yet for the majority of clients, it is the best system. So I hope you get a chance to try the LightSpeed lift system. This classic lift from the hip makes total sense conceptually compared to lifting up in through the rib cage and the breathing system. Call us.